वक्रतुंड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभ निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा।
Team Azure is a study circle of 8 like-minded professionals who meet every alternate Saturday and discuss the best practices in the investment management profession. Please allow me to introduce them each one by one. I'll start with Mr. Rajendra Bhatia. Mr. Bhatia is like a wall for us. He often plays the role of a mentor. Next in line is Mr. Saurabh Mittal. Other than being a big-time foodie, he's also a very good writer, and you can catch him every morning on 94.3 FM. Mukul Agarwal. For him, life is in detail, very methodical in approach. Mukul doesn't like to take shortcuts in life. Sanjay Ladha, a very disciplined man. Sanjay spends a lot of time in doing work at school for special kids. Kamal Poddar, man of strong relationships. Despite being a veteran, Kamal is always eager to learn new things in life. Nikhil Kothari, Nikhil comes on DD channel. Nikhil is a super enthusiast and has super positive approach in life. last but not the least, or rather from my side, Gajendra Kothari. We call him Yatra Tatra Sarvatra. Why? He's omnipresent. He's on TV, he's in news channel, he's in newspaper. At the same time, he's with clients. Super energetic, but yet very, very cool.
Thank you so much, Vinayak. Now I would like to introduce a couple of our other team members. The first is Ronak Hindocha, our very own Steve Jobs. Though you will never find Steve Jobs in suits, but he has made an exception today. The guy who only understands binary numbers and always love to make things very simple, you know. So he's Ronak for us. And last but not the least, Vinayak Sapre from VVS Ventures. He's a guy who lives life on his own terms. And we all will envy here when you will come to know that he works just 4 days a week, you know. And he always believes in work-life balance.
Well, you must be thinking that this is the first of its own kind, that 6-7 financial advisors bringing their clients. As in, sometimes in our industry, people believe that if I expose my clients to the peer, I may end up losing the client. But it's the bonding which we have, we enjoy in Team Azure, and we thought it's a high time that we should add value to the clients at least once in a year on World Investors Day, and the day should be enjoyed or celebrated with our esteemed clients. So what we aspire for at Team Azure, and what as an advisor one needs to have, what we believe that one needs to have domain knowledge. One should be giving unbiased advice to their clients, so keeping the client at first. And the most important thing is the delightful customer experience one needs to give to their clients. As Sant Kabir says in his one of his dohas, I'll recite it for you. Sadhu avat dekh kar hasi hamari deh. Sadhu means advisor. So when you see your advisor, you should feel happy that somebody who is a well-wisher and at the same time very competent to take the second line he says, Matha ka grah utara, nainan badha sneh. So he's somebody who is a solution provider, somebody who is ready to take all the tensions you have and you can just pass it on to him or her to take care of not only your financial needs, but at the same time your emotional needs as well. So with this, I'll hand it over to Gajendra to introduce you to our first speaker.
Ladies and gentlemen, the theme of this year's event is Rise with India, Profit with India. India is the next economic superpower. More than 50% of India's population is young. India has huge population of English-speaking people, etc., etc. We all know this. These facts attract a lot of FIIs, foreign institutional investors, to invest in Indian markets. Most of the big names like HDFC, ICICI, Infosys, and many more are largely owned by FIIs. And Indian retail participation, which we all are part of it, is just 4%. It's very important to understand why there is a lot of merit to participate in the growth story of our country and to maximize the profit out of it. I would now like to invite our first speaker of the evening, Mr. Anup Maheshwari. Anup has been working with DSP Blackrock Investment Managers Private Limited, previously called DSP Merrill Lynch Fund Managers, since July 1997, and has been managing the domestic funds since May 2001. Anup was Chief Investment Officer at HSBC Asset Management between December 2005 and May 2006, before returning to DSP Blackrock Investment Managers. Between 1997 and 2000, Anup also managed an offshore fund called the Merrill Lynch India Fund, which was registered in Mauritius and sold to Merrill Lynch's clientele outside India. Prior to joining DSP Blackrock, he worked with Chescor, a British fund management firm that managed 3 offshore funds investing into Indian equities. Anup obtained a Bachelor of Commerce degree from Sydenham College, Bombay University in 1991, followed by a postgraduate diploma in management from Indian Institute of Management, Lucknow in 1993. In May 2005, the top fund managers of India survey conducted by Business Today and mutualfundsindia.com featured Anup amongst the top equity fund managers in the country. Ladies and gentlemen, please join hands in welcoming Anup Maheshwari.
Thank you to the entire Team Azure for organizing this very special event. I think you've chosen a perfect day, World Investor Day. Frankly, even I wasn't sure World Investor Day was on the 14th of March, so thank you for educating us all about that. And no better day than to sit and talk a little bit about investments and to share whatever little we know on the subject. But thank you once again for organizing all of this. I'll do the bulk of my presentation in English, but if anyone wishes to ask any questions at any point in Hindi or any other, Hindi and English I think we'll stick to. We'll forget any other language for now, but I'd be happy to take it. So let me just start off with the presentation that I have today. Normally when we come and make presentations to large audiences, they can be fairly dull and boring presentations, frankly. When you talk about markets and slides and graphs and people throw data and all sorts of stuff that puts half the audience to sleep. So I normally have two versions that I carry with me. One is a 35-slide, rather boring version, and the other is a one-slide version. So I've got the one-slide version for you today. And it's just got some 10 numbers on it, and through that, we just discuss a lot about how investments happen, what sort of companies are listed. The whole idea is, how do you put a price on anything? How do you decide when the market's cheap, when it is expensive? When you look at a company, how do you decide when it's cheap, when it's expensive? And before that, in the mail that they had sent to me about this event, I think they wrote a very important line within it, where they said one of the key ideas of the day today would be to give a sense to investors, why is it that so many investors don't tend to have a good experience with markets? Investing is not a very difficult art. It's actually a very, very simple topic that tends to get complicated by a lot of experts. But I think the biggest thing that is lacking in investments is more the psychology of investing. I often feel as fund managers, our job is anyway to manage money, but when we talk to investors, it's more like a psychologist, even for wealth advisors. I think one of the biggest challenges in investing is the art of doing nothing, very honestly. Let me just give you one simple example. So I joined this firm way back in 1997, and we launched our first equity fund in those days, the DSP Blackrock Equity Fund. From 1997 to now, if I start reeling off the number of events we had where we felt things were coming to an end, prior to 97, if you remember, we had the big Harshad Mehta scam. In the year 99, 2000, we had the tech boom and bust. In between, we had 9/11 happen. We've had a war with our neighbors. We've had more scams along the way. We've had the global financial crisis. And yet, at the end of all of that, the markets are today where they are. And on hindsight, when you look back at it, all of them were just buying opportunities, because none of them really changed anything for the long term. It was very difficult to live through those days. The problem in investing is living through each day, because there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of distraction. But actually, if you manage to just take a really long-term scope of 15 years, you tend to notice that you come out pretty okay. So when I go back to the fund that we launched in 1997, at that point, I was early into my career, and if somebody told me in the next 17 years, you all will deliver a 25% annualized return for 25 years and beat the index by 12% per annum over that period of time, I would have taken it any day. And I would have thought we would have a very happy bunch of investors at the end of it. But the reality is that there is, I doubt, even one person who invested in our fund in 97 who's still an investor in the fund today. All you had to do was put money and do nothing. And this is not just for us, I'm generalizing, it's across the mutual fund industry. Most funds have created very good value. But what tends to happen is, if I actually look at the investors' returns, now I may look back and say, we had a good track record, 17 years, 25% annualized, but it means nothing, because if you look at what the investor has experienced, we've had a lot of investors coming into our funds at the peak of the market in 2007 or 8. We've had people come in before that, And it's painful to see people not making money or not holding on for a period of time and then suffering losses in between and getting switched off what equity investing is all about. So very often the skill really is to be able to hold on, and if you can psychologically convince yourself that markets that are falling are good and markets rising is not a good thing, because as a long-term investor, when markets are falling, you're getting to buy it cheaper, and markets are rising, it's getting more and more expensive for any incremental investment you do. If you can psychologically change your mindset to start thinking that way, you will end up being a better investor. I think 99% of the market gets very happy when markets are at highs and get very depressed when markets are at lows. And if you can somehow turn that on its head and just start seeing it the other way around, I can guarantee you, you'll do a much, much better job, and you'll have a much better investor experience. So with that, let me just get into this presentation and talk you through exactly, in a way, I'm trying to put you in our shoes. When we look at companies, what do we look for? How do you put a price on a share? What types of companies are listed? Why do you see so much volatility? And I'll try and piece it all together. It may go here and there, but the idea is to, at the end of it, give you a better feel of what investing is all about. So let's just start with the first slide. That's okay. So I'm going to just start off with, yeah, you can just stop there. So what I've tried to do is all financial markets, whether we are talking of the equity market or the fixed income market, as we call it, the debt market where you buy bonds, all of them do exactly the same thing. Whenever you buy any financial instrument, normally when you buy the instrument, there is a cash flow with that instrument. So you earn an interest on it. Let's say you put your money in the bank, you earn an interest. You buy a bond, you earn an interest. All the future cash flows that you're going to earn when you hold that instrument, the present value of all those cash flows today is typically the value of what you're invested in. Now I'll give you a very simple example of a bond, and then I'll give you exactly how it compares and how it's the same for equities. Now let's start off with a very, very simple example, and I hope most of you have invested, so you'll have some basic idea on this. Let's say we need to put a price on a bond. You hold a bond. You're a bond holder. And every bond has a face value. When it's issued, normally there's a face value of, let's say, in this case, we use the example of 100 rupees, a 100 rupee bond. Every bond tends to have a coupon, a rate of interest, right? So suppose you're buying a tax-free bond, 10-year tax-free bond. You have the face value of the bond, and every year you're earning a certain rate of interest. Now let's assume that's the coupon. Let's say coupon is 10, which means on the 100 rupee investment you've made, 10 rupees will be paid to you every year. That is what your annual earning is on that instrument. Now if you divide the coupon by the face value, 10 upon 100, you get the third line, which is called the yield. So you're earning 10% basically on the capital you've invested. Very simple concept. Then there is a term, which is the life of the bond. In this case, we've just assumed it's a 10-year bond. So for every year, you earn 10 rupees, 10 rupees, 10 rupees for 10 years. And finally, there are interest rates in the market. Now, what are market interest rates? The government of India issues government securities. And the 10-year government security issued by the government of India is what is called as the benchmark yield. In any market anywhere in the world, the 10-year government bond rate of interest in the market is normally the indication of interest rates in that market. That is the benchmark. So in our case, if we look at the 10-year bond by the government of India, today it's actually at 7.5 or so, but I've just used 8% for the use of just for convenience. So 8% is the market rate of interest. So you could go and buy any bond at 8% yield to you, risk-free. Now, if I had to put a price, now you hold this bond of 100 rupee face value, and I say I want to buy it from you. Now, what will you do? What you will say is, my bond is earning me 10% every year. The market rate of interest is 8%, so I'm making 2% additional on the bond that I hold. So will I give it to you at 100 rupees? Will you sell it to me at 100? No, because I'll just make that extra 2%. So you will put a premium to the bond. You'll price it at 120, let's say. So you will capture that 2% extra you're earning over 10 years and put it into your price today and say you can buy it at 120, right? So the difference between yield and interest rates, this gap determines the premium to this face value or the price of this bond, how much of an additional premium you will get over the face value. So that is hopefully understood. It's a very simple concept of how you put a price on a bond. Now I'm going to compare this to equities. In equities, the face value of the bond is the equivalent of the book value of a company. Now let me explain what book value of a company is. Book value of a company is nothing but the accumulated reserves, profits, capital put into the company divided by the number of shares. So as a shareholder, your access to the company is the book value. That is the value it has created. And again, I'll just maybe explain this simply because not everyone may be familiar with it. So let's say you were to start a business tomorrow. What do you need first? You need the capital. Let's say you put in capital of 10 lakhs. So 10 lakhs is your equity. And let's say for the sake of the way balance sheets are made, there are shares that are issued. So your 10 lakhs are of 10 rupees face value. So 1 lakh shares of 10 rupees each is 10 lakhs is your capital. Now if I just take the 10 lakhs of your capital and divide it by the number of shares, you get the book value of the company. So it is just nothing but your total capital put into the business. And as time passes and as you earn profits, that adds to your capital. So the total capital that the company has earned over all the years, divided by the number of shares, is the book value. And that is almost, it's the equivalent of the face value of a bond, and I'll explain that in a little while. The coupon in equities that you earn every year is the company's earnings per share every year. Now, unlike in bonds, most of the time they define it. You know you're going to earn 10% or 8% or whatever. In equity, you have to predict it because profits of companies go up and down. The earnings per share of a company, the profit divided by the number of shares is the earnings per share. The profits of companies go up and down all the time. So it's very difficult to know what the earnings per share will be. But the earnings per share of every year as a shareholder is the coupon that you're earning. And earnings per share, just like we divided coupon on face value to give you an yield, if you divide the annual earnings per share on the book value, you get something called ROE. ROE stands for return on equity. Now let me explain this concept a little better, because this is the most fundamental concept of any investor worldwide. You cannot buy or sell a single share without knowing what the ROE of that company is, because otherwise you would be just speculating. So let me explain ROE to you. I gave you the example of you wanting to set up a business. Let's say you have 10 lakhs of capital. Now you have two options if you have that capital. One option is you just go and put it into the bank, or you buy a 10-year risk-free bond from the government and earn that rate of return on it, 8%. The other option is you say, no, I want to earn more than 8%. So I'm going to put into a business. I'm going to put in my effort, my hard work, my sweat, blood, tears, everything, and I have to generate a higher return. The return that you're generating every year on your business, the profits, divided by the capital that you've put in. If you've put in 10 lakhs, if you just bought a risk-free bond, you would earn 80,000, 8% on it. But if you earn instead 1 lakh or 1.5 lakhs on it profit, 1.5 lakh profit divided by 10 lakhs is your return on equity. You are, on the capital that you've put into your business, you are generating a profit. That profit is the rate of interest that you're earning in a way, correct? So that is return on equity. So, and different companies have totally different returns on equity. Different